good afternoon, depending on where you are in the world. So my name is Declan Osborne, and I am the editor of PCIW, the Professional Clothing Industry Association worldwide. So we are the member-driven organisation dedicated to representing the uniform, workwear and PPE supply chains. I'd like to welcome you today to the PCIW member webinar, Solving the Sustainability Problem of Professional Clothing in Partnerships with Meryl Fabrics. We met the Meryl team following the publication of the Circular Textiles for a Sustainable Future report, educating on the principles of designing with the end in mind. And we spoke with Peter and Kevin about their circular solution, and it resonated with the principles of the report. And with just 1% of clothing being recycled back into clothing, learning of Meryl's circular solution, end-of-life collection, and recycling caught our interest. So PCIW is giving Meryl team the platform today to speak about the sustainability factor, the technology breakthrough, its versatility, and the longer-term cost effectiveness. So I'd like to take the opportunity to thank all of our guest speakers today and to welcome Peter Broom and Kevin Simpson to introduce Meryl Fabrics. Thank you.
Thanks, Declan. Hi, everyone. So I'm Kevin Simpson. I'm in charge of brand and marketing for Meryl Fabrics. I'd like to thank you all for joining us today, and thank you, of course, to the PCIW for helping us pull all this together and give us the opportunity to showcase Meryl Fabrics, and hopefully we can answer some of the questions that you may have for us. So Meryl Fabrics is not just a textile company. We are at heart a textile technology company, a business we started by reviewing and interviewing various experts across the industry, and discovering as many of these issues surrounding textiles and sustainability that we could identify. And as we all know, it's one of the most polluting industries on the planet. But this allowed us to build a business and build products that directly benefited everyone involved, to satisfy the original core brand pillars of Meryl Fabrics, which is to reduce the amount of virgin polymer being created, to save water, and to reduce the overall impact of the industry. So after talking in great depth to Yvette and the team at the PCIW, an early decision was made for us to introduce our products into the professional clothing market. There were many reasons for this, necessity probably being the main one, but another big reason was our process. We had the ability to get more material back in by going through this channel in order for us to remake our items that we sell. Now, we were built to service this industry with a more environmentally friendly, more durable product that can be used over and over again with very simple, for want of a better term, plug and play process, so as not to disrupt the customer's operational business. Not only providing final apparel items, because we know if there's a supplier relationship in place with a workwear provider already, which has happened countless times since we've been doing this, we can supply the fabric as well. This is not a problem for us, so long as we keep the supply chain shorter, retain enough visibility and control in order for us to get items returned, then we can do this. It's absolutely possible. Today, we're going to outline some of the technology, some of the benefits, and some of the opportunities that exist for yourselves and your businesses to take full advantage of a more fully circular, more environmentally friendly professional clothing option.
Okay, well, I'll take you into the sustainability factor. And sustainability is a word that is bandied around in many areas for many different reasons. So what I want to do this afternoon is talk about breaking it down into three areas. And the three areas are consumption of what we take. So natural resources, which is fresh water, things from the environment, land, areas that we keep taking that have to be put back. The second aspect I want to talk about is reducing the pollution, and the pollution we create through dyeing and finishing, through all types of preparation to get the fabrics ready to be made into garments. And finally, the ability to reuse what we create. So I want to break the areas down into those three prospective disciplines. So the process we use first and foremost is we don't use any water. So our dyeing process is done, we color the base product. So there is no need for us to dye in a traditional manner. We don't need to finish. We don't need a lot of the processes to get the fiber to feel nice, to be pliable, and for us to use it in garments for, for individual operations. And finally, the ability to reuse what we make. If we can take a product and reuse it over and over again. Now we know that we can't use it infinitely in fibers, simply because we lose some of the things we need to make a yarn. So we lose tensile strength. So we had to find a solution to be able to use the waste product after we'd finished using it as a fabric. And as we get into the webinar, we can talk about the areas we can use the product after it's finished its extended life as fabrics. So I'd like to invite Stanley to join us to discuss some of the technical innovations, some of the breakthroughs we've made, and we can share the knowledge and experience we've gained over the last 6 years.
Okay, thank you, Peter. I am Stanley Russell. I'm down as technical sales expert at Eagle Technical Products, a company I recently joined in October to head up their technical development. I also am the owner of APT Fabrics, known as an innovative company and award-winning many times with PCIW. So I've met Peter, I think it was 2 PCIW awards ago. He was sitting at my table, and as you generally do over a glass of wine, as you talk to people and ask them what they do. So Peter started talking about his product, and I went, okay, here's another one on the trail of the sustainability. I said, and the reason I was very kind of disillusioned at the time was the fact that I've been working with a circular economy in Holland for well over 12 years, and I've seen so much greenwashing, it's unbelievable. Products that have been heavily marketed saying, we can do this, we can do that. And when you actually investigate it, you find it's at the pilot stage, it needs massive investment. So in theory, it works, in practice, it doesn't. And in a lot of cases, the products were, I'm going to laugh at this one, self-certified by non-independent bodies, which they actually owned. In my opinion, a product is only good if it is certified independently and out of the control of the company providing that product. I've always gone that way with APT Fabrics, in that I have a view on what way a product could work. I take it to market after I've certified it with an independent body. So what tweaked me about Peter was, he said, I can provide you with test reports. And the first thing I said was, independent? He went, yes, independent. So I started looking at these independent reports, and I went, okay, maybe he's onto something here. And to put it in perspective, when Peter says it's potentially infinitely recyclable, it is, but not necessarily into a fabric form. It could be into an exterior product. And what you've got to understand from a sustainability aspect in the marketplace, if it's a spun product, the best place to start off is with a long chain thread, so that when you recycle that, it becomes a short chain thread. But after that, it is too small a thread to work with. So it has to go into some other form. It can't hold together. So you have to introduce virgin product into the product. So in most cases, when people are talking about sustainability, they're talking about, well, about 30% of this product can go into, well, it could all go into recycling, but we still have to add in 70% of virgin product to make it worthwhile, or to make it work, or to hold together. So with Peter's product, and this is one of the key products of the Meryl product, it can be recycled. You can take the product, and at the end of life, you collect it, you shred it, or do whatever you want to it, and you can turn it back into the feed chips, the raw material. And the only aspect, and from memory, Peter said, the only thing they have to add in a little bit of virgin product for is if they were required like the fluorescent white. Everything else can be totally recycled. So in my opinion, this, along with other monofibers, is a product that I feel is key to the marketplace, and it well deserves the awards it's winning. It's there, it works, it's a comfortable product. And what gets me is why other people aren't using it. I said, I've got a couple of ideas that I'm talking to Peter independently about, where I feel there's products that can go into the workplace and be infinitely recyclable. And I say infinitely, because at the end of life, you can turn it into something like a Lego brick and make sustainable products from it. Now, like disaster areas, make them. And like the touch, it's beautiful. It is soft. Unfortunately, I'm not wearing one. I'm wearing a Guinness top, but maybe you can make one of those and I'll be wearing that. But I can truly say, from a fabric expert point of view, it is the only fabric I've found on the market that does what it says on the tin.
Okay, well, if we now want to discuss some of the technical aspects of what we've innovated over the past years. And the first thing we came up with was a hydrogen bonding technology. And the purpose for this was threefold. We needed to give it security of construction. And when I use the term security of construction, it's so we can strengthen the individual filaments as we create them. So when we spin them into a yarn, we get a soft touch, we get a pliable operation, and we get a color without using any water and or chemicals or any types of solvents. And as a byproduct, it makes the fiber, each individual filament, non-shedding of microfibers. And that is a significant aspect to microplastic pollution in our waterways and into the oceans. And the easiest way to explain that is if you can imagine a piece of fishing line, which you can see quite easily that even if you rub it aggressively, it doesn't shed any fibers from it. So, and we did this and then put it out to independent testings. And I want to clarify that at the time, there was no recognized or acceptable test. So the laboratory we approached had to create a test for the product and then get it approved by both the European and the United States governments. And that is the certification they use, which is 99.9735, leaving a minuscule amount of unrecognizable items in the solution, but it was such a microscopic amount. The laboratory were quite happy to give it a 0 microfiber shedding certification. So that is point one. Point two, our waterless ecodye solution. A lot of people will recognize this. The technology has been around for many years. We've just used our innovative skills to adapt it to exactly what we wanted and give us the ability to color the raw material, that as we extrude the filaments to create the yarn, we use 0 water, 0 chemicals, no silicons, or any solvents in this process. This innovative idea came to us because of the pollution created in countries that are less able to deal with it. If we cast our mind back some 60 or 70 years, people in the northwest of England could tell you what product was being created in the local textile mills by the color of the river. So we needed to get away from the recognized dyeing processes that we use currently to reduce the pollutants that we put into our waterways, so as we do not create problems in parts of the world that are less able to deal with them as we are, or as we may be. Now, the reusability of the fabric, we can use the product as much as 8 times, dependent on the operation it's being used in. So, you know, if we have something that's being used in a particularly corrosive environment, then the molecular structure of the product makes it unrealistic to use more than 2 or 3 times. But if we have a standard operation, then as many as 8 times through the circular process is what we've achieved. And the reason we claim infinite recyclability is we can use it in other products. And some of those products are created through plastic molding. We've looked at simple things like the automotive industry, 3D printing. We've run some tests after creating 3D printing material from our waste product. And because it's inert, it has worked in fields that we would never have thought at the beginning. We've created hips, knees, catheters, these types of product for the medical industry. We can create plastics for the automotive industry or the aviation industry, or in some cases, the food industry. So it does have the ability to reuse it then infinitely, because we don't require the technical capacity we would need to make fabrics or yarns using a micro extrusion process. It makes the product infinitely recyclable. So I think what I've actually said there is we believe we can be a benefit. And if we look at the simple savings we can create, if you want to look at a ton of textile produced under current methods, we can reduce that by 750,000 litres of water per ton. That equates to the daily drinking water of 600 people for 12 months. I've done the mathematics. If we look at the reduction in carbon monoxide or our carbon that goes into the atmosphere, our CO2, we reduce by 30 tons per ton. And if you want to look at that based on our capacity, which is 100 tons per month, that's 30,000 tons of CO2 emissions removed monthly. So those are some of the details of what we've created. And the most important thing about this is it is an actual product. It is available. We have sold it. We've delivered it to customers. It isn't aspirational. It is available now, not in 5 or 10 years. So those were the points I wanted to make this afternoon from a technical aspect. And I'm sorry I've gone into some technical detail, probably further than most of you would have liked. But I am available if you have questions, either at the end of the webinar or my email will be available. You can drop your mails to me and I'll gladly answer any questions. So Stanley, what do you think on your feedback?
Well, as I said, I judge a book, I don't judge a book by its cover, and you've provided me with the physical evidence of what I wanted. I think one of the things you have left out as well is that some of the other products where it's heat resistant to 180 degrees centigrade as well, which has other attributes for saying wearing under, in my effect, like fire suits and things like that, potential for uniforms where they could come into a heat environment. So there are other avenues that you've touched on, you've certified. I think you've gone further than most companies in that they have independently certified it. And I stress independently certified, because there's no good, I could bring out a product tomorrow and say it does this and it does that. But unless I can actually provide it with certification, like from somebody like BTTG or ATEX or whatever, an accredited laboratory, I'm not interested in it. We had too much of that going through COVID. We had unaccredited places basically saying it did this and did that, and they're all failures. Yours I've been able to check up with the required bodies, checked up that they actually were accredited to carry out that testing. So from a, should I say, truthful product, I would class you as 99.99735 or whatever you said before. I won't give you the 100% because there's obviously going to be something there that's not quite right. But from what I've seen, it's a credible product. You're right, it's available now. And so it's more up to the end users to say, do we want to pay a little bit extra for a product that is sustainable and we're not putting it in landfill? We're not leaving it as a legacy for our kids and their kids. We're not polluting the planet. We should be looking at how we can improve. And this product is comfortable to wear. It's got a lot of attributes. It's got a lot of areas it can be used in, medical being one of them, reusable, sterilizable, not shedding. There's a lot of things there that the government should be looking at instead of single-use products. Single-use products cost money, and they create money in that you got landfill to fill. So reusable, if it costs £10 and it's reusable as opposed to a single-use product of £2, in my opinion, it's worthwhile to have a reusable product.
We're going to cover the costs. We're going to cover the costings and the balance later in the webinar. So I don't want to drift too much into that. From the technical aspects, not sending this product to landfill is one of the major, one of the major benefits. The pollution aspect is another benefit.
I agree, because the dyeing process itself, as you said, colors the water. Okay, there's a lot of legislations coming in dye houses that they have to create filters and that, but they're not filtering out everything, as has been seen by PFAS chemicals polluting the world.
Stanley, we know that we export the problems that we cannot get away with. Now, we manufacture in Europe, so we manufacture in the market we are currently supplying. But we do that for three reasons. One is environmental. The second reason is we know that people working in the industry in certain parts of the world don't get a fair shake. And the third aspect is they move things around country to country. And that doesn't make any sense. We produce the yarn in Europe. We produce the fabric in Europe. We produce the garments in Europe. So we've done that for a specific reason. So from a technical aspect, yes, we've done it locally. We've done it by reducing pollution, and we've done it by massively reducing waste. Now, we know it won't be perfect for everyone, but we've made a start. I'm not saying that this is the end. This is the total solution. It's not. This is a solution. It's a start. And I'll make you a promise today, we will continue to innovate. the innovation team that I lead, want to look at other areas that we know we can improve on. So at that point, I think we need to move on. I'm about to get controlled, I think.
That's right. That's right. So in the interest of time, I'd like to thank you, Stanley, for joining us today as one of our guest speakers. We really appreciate your time and your expertise. So thank you very much. Now, we've heard about the sustainability factor. We've heard about the technology behind it. And now we are going to explore its versatility. So I would like to introduce our next two speakers, Nisha Muir, the Uniform Program Manager at Air Canada, and Karen Sparrow, the Director of Red Sparrow Consulting. Now, both Karen and Nisha are associates of our Uniform Buyers Network. So I'd like to introduce you both now to discuss the versatility of what this solution has to offer.
Okay, well, if you want, I'll kick off quickly on the versatility of the product that we've already delivered as uniforms, as workwear, as t-shirts, polo shirts. We have a range of blanket products, which we use for baby blankets, flight blankets, first responder blankets. This is a product that we're extremely proud of, and it works well in those areas. We are working currently on yoga wear, so things like leggings, close to the body fabrics, which are not quite ready, but very close. But what we've created is basically a range of 6 fabrics in different weights and gauges and construction. And we did that simply to get a product ready for market as soon as we possibly could. And at that point, we brought a range to the marketplace to say, this is what we've created. This is the construction. Is this something you can use? And we put it out to the market. And I'll hand over now to Nisha and Karen to come back to me.
Thank you, Peter. So yeah, our program is quite large, as we both have workwear and dresswear components, and we also source PPE, and much of what we require is custom tailored to meet the needs of our various work environments. So having a range of sustainable textiles that we can adapt to suit what we need is very interesting for us.
Yes, and so from my side, so obviously I've worked in the industry for quite a few years now in different aspects. So I worked with the Virgin Group, so that would be with obviously aviation and then the space line itself, and then going on to large events, the London 2012. So with all of those, I think it's they're all a real mix of garments and all have different requirements. So it's really, really good to see that there is some sort of versatility around the different types of fabrics with sustainable aspects to it. So yes, so that's really, really sort of beneficial for us.
And how difficult is it for you as uniform buyers to implement sustainability, and what strategies do you tend to opt for?
Yeah, finding ways to reduce the environmental footprint of our uniform program has been very challenging. As uniform programs are among the biggest contributors to the vast amount of textile waste that ends up in landfills, we have a mandate to reduce waste and to be as sustainable as possible. But until very recently, the uniform manufacturing industry as a whole didn't really offer solutions. It's only been in the last couple of years that leaders have emerged, such as Peter and Meryl Fabrics, with potential solutions that could address the issue at a manufacturing level. However, on our own, we have a recycling program in place to capture what we could. Since the launch of our uniform program in 2017, we have actually sustainably recycled 89,129 uniform pieces, so that's 346 tons. And we've done this using a charity organization that rebrands branded clothing to then give to people in need, and an organization that finds ways to properly dispose of uniforms by shredding them for reuse as fillers for furniture, sporting equipment, etc. But that's just a little bit of our program. And if we could have uniforms that we can just keep using the fibers over again for our program, that really is the ideal.
And Karen?
So from my side, actually, so just sort of developing the strategy itself. So in every program that we work on, we do a lot of research. And we carried out some research in a recent project which told us that the employees themselves wanted to be comfortable and proud for what they wear, but it also told us like 78% of them, actually, the story of the sustainable story was really important to them about protecting our planet. But also from that, because it's a recent project, it just demonstrated actually how people are thinking more, and the wearers themselves is very, very important to them, the way that how we think about sustainability. We know that currently 90% of workwear goes into landfill, which is extortionate, and that's only 2% of the clothing market. So and then on Peter's point around reusing, at the moment less than 1% of clothing materials are actually reused, so this is just such a great benefit. So the sort of strategy that we put together was, so we do lots of things where we can try and sort of be as sustainable as possible. So we do look for sustainable solutions, but we also, with the wardrobe management process, look about the durability, and rather than actually do an allocation as such, it's wear and tear. So the more durable a product can be, obviously the better, and you get more life out of that, and then you can go on to the reuse. So it's looking at that circular textiles process is very, very important.
Yeah, I think you touched upon the story there, Karen, which is really important, I think. And we've discussed this before, that as Pete mentioned earlier as well, about using the waste product. So at the end of an extended life in textile terms already, we've given that fabric a very long lifetime. And then after that, we can use those products, the waste product, to make other things. And this can just feed into the story. So if we could find businesses that have a use for that end product as well. Once we've used workwear for a number of years, it can then be formulated into something else. And I think this builds into the sustainability story of a lot of businesses. And this is really what we're aiming for, to keep that ongoing story and complete the circle, so that the sustainability isn't just a one point made within the business, or one milestone. It's just forever. This is really something that we're going for. And Nisha, you touched upon the emissions as well. This is another part of something that we've looked at in great detail recently, and we use the RAP equation to calculate the emission savings, which Pete will have to come in and take over on this. I'm sure he's got it in mind. But there is a significant saving on that, and this is not an offsetting. This is a reduction in your current footprint. Again, for many businesses.
No, absolutely, especially being in an airline, we look for ways of reducing our actual footprint wherever we can. And the uniform program is a tangible place where we can make a difference. And there are parts of our industry where it's harder and we can just offset what we're doing. But when it comes to uniforms, we really can make a difference by choosing the kind of fabrics that we're using for our uniforms and finding sustainable solutions to textile recycling. This is very interesting for us.
Can I just add to that? Actually, it's just quite interesting around, so for PPE, I've been working on a project recently with a rail company, and looking at the PPE, a lot of the procurement piece was around looking at going to a company that's more like a catalogue, so has a range of different products. It could be from pens through to obviously to the PPE, anything. And in that process, there's only very few sustainable items that are actually available. And then there's obviously a price there as well. And I know obviously Peter touched on the fact that he wants to talk about price further into the webinar. But those sorts of things, I think, it is about the practice of the procurement team and actually the education piece. But the sustainable story is really, really good for the business as well. So not only for all the wearers, but also from a PR point of view, I think, you know, having that sustainable story, people are buying into it now. So I think it's really important.
Yeah, and we go back to our transparency on that as well. As Stanley mentioned, you know, that we've always aimed to be as transparent as we could with these processes, and that will open up the stories that, you know, the marketing, there is a marketing message, we all know this, and if you I don't want to use the word greenwashing on here, so this is a big thing in the marketing at the moment, and for that reason we want to be as transparent as possible and do these sorts of explanation platforms, you know, so that we can tell everybody exactly why we've done it, how we've done it, and where we're going with it, so that those stories can be implemented into a wider marketing message for bigger brands, and it's not such a difficult thing to do.
Okay, well, I'd like just to add a couple of details to the conversation about the versatility and the sustainability or the reusability of what we've got. For all of the people out there that actually purchase uniforms and workwear, the moment you make a purchase from us, your initial saving is 22% of product that would have been lost as cutting waste or weaving waste. The next aspect of what we do is, because the fiber will not absorb heavy oils or lubricants or basically any type of pollutant into the actual fiber, makes it far easier to clean. So if you get from a heavy engineering aspect in rail or underwing in aviation, we used some of my previous knowledge of how the engineering aspect of aviation is. If you can clean the product and clean it satisfactorily to remove any particulates that may cause irritation or makes the product or makes the garment look less attractive, then that is a benefit. And we can do that because you wash at lower temperatures, and because of the non-absorbency of the fiber, the dirt comes out far easier. So that saves for finding replacement garments, you know, if they are heavily soiled in operation of their work.
That is definitely interesting for our below the wing employees, because they are definitely exposed to heavy oils and greases on a daily basis. And it does take a toll on the uniforms and the longevity of the uniforms that they have, and the number of uniforms that we have to supply per year, just to make sure that they're looking presentable and presenting the professional image that we want them to, and also for their own comfort and safety. So if a garment won't absorb the oils and grease the way they do right now and can come out clean quicker and lasts longer, that's a big plus.
Yeah, I agree, Nisha. I think, you know, certainly working with different engineering, whether it, like you say, whether it be in the rail or any transport or any sort of oily, sort of dirty type roles, where, you know, you're continually replacing PPE or garments just because they just you know, the dirt, and then those actual garments, when they go into they have to go into landfill, or they do go into landfill currently because there is no other place for them. You can't recycle them when they've got oil all over them, those sorts of things. And we used to come up against that with our recycling programs, where they wouldn't take anything that was contaminated. So for me, that, you know, that's a huge benefit to be able to wash garments, but also, like you say, it makes it more durable, and you're not going to be replacing garments, you know, many times in a year.
And that's going to feed quite nicely into our next segment, based on the timing, which will be the price versus cost. So I'd like to say thank you very much for our guest speakers again, Karen and Nisha, it's a pleasure to have you on here today. And I'm sure I can already see there are questions coming on in the Q&A, and we'll be tackling that towards the end of the webinar. So if you have any questions in the meantime, please feel free to ask them, and we'll make sure they are answered, if not on the webinar, then straight after the webinar. So thank you very much, Karen and Nisha. And I would now like to move on to price versus cost, and I'll be introducing our guest speaker, Jamie Megan from Uplift 360. He's the CEO there, so thank you for joining.
Okay, what we'll do now is we will go into the durability of the of our fabric compared to cotton and polyester cotton. The testing of the durability we used was very detailed because we needed to discover the life expectancy of the product, and the product, dependent on operation, is between 3 and 5 times more durable than fabrics that are currently being used in the areas of workwear, of bedding, of different aspects of industrial clothing. So I wanted to understand that, and we did a lot of independent testing, and all of the test results are available to be viewed on the website. So I have that, but we need to be looking at the cost and how we can balance that out, because we need to convince the accountants of this world that you're no longer buying a disposable consumable. When you're buying a product like ours, you're buying something that is a balance sheet asset, and you would write it down over a period rather than putting it in as a disposable cost, because it can last up to 5 times longer. The next aspect of the cost saving is very simple and straightforward. We collect it. There is no disposal cost. So that is the brief outline I've got, and I'd like to get Jamie to come in now, and we can discuss the aspects and his concerns about the actual cost of individual items.
Yeah, thanks, Peter. Jamie Megan, I'm the CEO of Uplift 360. We're an advanced materials startup, mainly in defense, security and humanitarian sectors. But when we started our business, we took a lot of our inspiration from the fashion industry, and that's how, and professional clothing and the massive overlaps. And that's how we really sort of started this conversation. And again, I'm one of those who met Peter at one of the PCIW events. I think one of the things that we talked about a lot, and I think it's sort of worth bringing up again, is I think right now we're kind of at a bit of a race to the bottom. There seems to be this obsession with, taking for the fashion industry, fast fashion, sort of one use only, and it's a false economy. And there's a number of reasons for this. I think one is we're about 7% circular in the world right now, and 70% of our emissions are from extraction. So this isn't sustainable. And if you think about that from a cost-benefit analysis, being able to design something that lasts longer, that can be reused, recycled, repaired, fully circular, in theory is like buying a pair of shoes that's designed to last you forever, right? You only need to pay for it once, and then you get the return on your investment. And I think the last thing really that's worth kind of bringing up and unpicking is right now, and very timely, both in my sector and across sectors, is supply chain resiliency. We're very reliant on other people's supply chains right now in the global market. We've seen the stresses and strains from COVID, from Ukraine, and also now from that kind of building tension in China. And I think what we've really got to do, and this is why I think it's really timely to have this conversation about your product, Peter and team, is we've got to be onshoring, nearshoring, and friendshoring, and we've got to own our supply chains, right? Because we don't have the luxury, and we won't have the luxury going forward, of being able to import and export all of those raw materials and the costs associated with that, as well as the sustainable impacts, are no longer appropriate, right? So I think those are kind of three areas I think, you know, I want to sort of start the conversation off, and I'm sure, Pete, you'll take it wherever you want to take it, but you know, I think what you guys are offering is a proposition that kind of gets to a lot of that, and we've got to change. We've got to change. We really don't have a choice now, and so I'll be excited to sort of hear your thoughts.
Okay, well, our resilience as far as supply chain goes, we're a one-stop shop. My goodness, I'm getting tongue-tied already. We make the yarn. We manufacture the fabric with partners, and I will emphasize with partners. And we make the garments in our own facility. But we do see this working as partnerships. We cannot do this on our own. We've created a product that is more expensive, and we can't hide from that because the raw material is more expensive. But we offset that by its longevity. We offset that by maintaining its look, its comfort for far longer. You use less products. If you issue 5 shirts now, you will only issue 3 shirts, or that would be our recommendation. The shirt I'm wearing today is now over 3 years old. I wear it a couple of times a week, so it's washed twice a week. So it's been through 300 washes. It still looks good. It still fits well. So having to replace it less often is a cost saving. Using less is a cost saving. Security and resilience of your supply chain will save you money ultimately. And then not having to pay for disposal costs. That will make a significant difference to every business. And with governments that will start to legislate as they have in the past, and I use sugary drinks as an example, the throwaway culture will have to be something, because we've got to innovate to survive. And if we can do that and spend a little extra now, it will save us a lot of money in the future.
Yeah, totally. And I want to pick up on what a couple of the other speakers have said as well, which is really getting to the bigger part of this, which is shifting cultures, right? So we talked about telling the story, and I think it's really important. We've talked about getting buy-in, and I think it's important from the outset that we get buy-in. And we talked about, I think, education. And so, you know, in our sector, defense and security, one of the things that we've done, and I think that you've been doing, and we've all been trying to do with PCIW, is trying to build that kind of conscious effort to educate people, because people don't know what they don't know, right? And that means getting around a table like we've done, you know, bringing leaders, senior leaders, consumers, customers, manufacturers, supply chain owners, and having that conversation and being honest with ourselves, which is sometimes a little bit uncomfortable, but also changing the behaviors and the cultures of people so that they understand that it isn't a, you know, there isn't a kind of take an item and then dispose of it, and then take another item and use it again. So those cultural shifts are something I think is really important. And I know that you guys are really quite big on that, because we're having these conversations, which is exactly the right time to be having them.
Okay, well, we've learned a lot over the last 12 months with our interaction with potential customers. And it's become very apparent to us that we need to upscale quickly. So we are currently out in the market, actively looking for an investor that will become a partner, and we can integrate and use our innovations and their market skills to bring this to the wider industry quicker. And I will, at the risk of upsetting a few people, unfortunately, textiles has been done the same way for so long. and everyone has had a conversation about, oh yeah, well, maybe we can do this or maybe we can do that. I'm sorry, guys, maybe's done. Talking is finished. We do something about it now. We stop talking about it. And that's what we're doing. And unfortunately, it's cost a lot of money to get us here, but it isn't unaffordable. If you look at this realistically, it is an affordable option that's available now. And it will get cheaper as we get smarter. So that's where I am from my perspective. I don't know what your thoughts on that are, Jamie.
Yeah, I mean, I'm totally on the same page. We shouldn't be put off by parts of the industry and the sectors and cross sectors that aren't willing to change. We should actually be having these conversations and be putting products like this forward. And I think that ultimately this should be something, like I've said to previous people, that needs to be raised in the consciousness of the senior leadership at the governmental level as well. And then people, we're certainly our company seeing a shift in terms of investor focus. So I do hope that you know, this is something that that people will get behind, because this is a no-brainer as far as I'm concerned, and certainly we'll help try and move this forward in the defence sector by connecting the dots. And as you say, this is about partnerships. So the stronger we are together, the better we can make a massive change, I think.
Yeah, I'm good at that, and I'm going to get off my soapbox now, because I think Declan wants to start to bring this webinar.
That's right. We've got a couple of minutes left for the conclusion, but I can see Nisha had a hand up there. Do you want to come in briefly, Nisha?
Yeah, I just wanted to add to what was just being said about education. It is so important, especially for the end users. The end users really don't have a clue as to just how destructive textile waste is to the environment. And it's only when people start getting educated that they will make the decisions to use the sustainable fabrics and to invest in the future. Because right now, they don't see the danger and they don't realize just how close we are to that, that cliff.
Yeah.
Thanks, Nisha.
Thanks, Nisha. And so we're just about to go into the Q&A. So I can see there are some questions here, but Kevin, do you want to conclude?
Sorry?
Would you like to conclude before we go to there? Or
yeah, I think that,
a few words?
There's been some real valid points there, I think, for both of us, and a lot to take back and discuss further. It seems that everybody is on the same page. And from our side, these are the industry experts that we listen to formulate our future planning and our future strategies. There was a lot of mention of supply chain there, which is why we, and I think I said in my introduction as well, that as long as we can keep the supply chain as short as possible, without deviating away into various places, then this whole thing becomes much more simple. And we can deviate away as long as everybody knows that they're part of this circle and the material has to come back. And we've heard a lot of times, this has been difficult in the past, which is why we've made our process so simple. We send it out, you give it us back, we will remake it, you get it back again. And this will absolutely help people understand a lot more as we go back into the education, understand a lot more how this circle works. I think a lot of the problems previously have come from the fact that at certain stages of that supply chain, whether that before or after use, people lose sight, they lose visibility, and they lose tracking of where their materials are going. We take all that away, and that's very, very important to us. And in terms of the education, it's a difficult thing to do. I think everybody knows this, that you can't educate the entire world. We are starting, we've recently launched, which some people may have read about in the press, an education program to start to inform the designers at a very young age, that to incorporate a circular economy, circular ethics into their design phase, and understand the types of material that are available, because there are materials out there that can be recycled and circled around. And it's important for us to start that from a design level, which I think, again, everybody is probably on the same page with, that it starts at the bottom. And that is the only way really to broaden this out into the wider market. But yeah, for now, I think it's nice to know that everybody's with us. And I think we're all heading in the right direction. I think it's good.
Perfect. So there's a series, there's 6 questions here so far, and there's one quite important one. So we've had some. The question here is: there's been some interesting comparisons to existing fabrics in the uniform and workwear industry, but not an actual reference as what the fabrics are made from. For example, polyester or nylon or other. So can you just tell the audience exactly what the composition is?
Yeah, the products we've looked at have been polyester cotton mix, because if we look at a large majority of the 6 fabric range we've created, it was created to fill a market area that is dominated currently by polyester cotton.
The question was about what composition is your fabric, Peter?
Oh, sorry, it's polyamide 6/6. And to explain that very easily, it is nylon, or it is a type of nylon.
Mm-hmm. And there's another question here. So you've given a comparison between the Meryl Fabrics nylon and the polycotton, but do you have a comparison with a cotton polo t-shirt?
Cotton polo t-shirt, the comparison is quite simple. It still uses water in its growing. It still uses water and solvents and chemicals in its scouring, its dyeing, and its finishing processes. And yes, we do agree that if you can separate cotton fibers, you can reuse it.
And we've got another one here. So another person has asked and queried about the low absorbency of the fabric and asked how has that affected the breathability?
Okay, the breathability of the fabric is unaffected because it's dealt with in the same way all fabrics are dealt with. People talk about breathability of a shirt or a garment. It has very little to do with the fiber it's manufactured from, it's how it's manufactured.
And so another question here is about the contamination and how much your recycling system, to be clear, can cope with. And they've specified that they're talking of things about like zips and the trims and how you go about that. Okay,
zips and trimmings. Trimmings would have to be removed, and we had this discussion. We've created the ability to have a high visibility shirt, and I will shy away from neon, but a very brightly colored shirt. But if we were to have to put reflection on the product, that is something we would have to remove. Buttons and zippers have to be removed unless it is a product that we've made, because we can make buttons and zippers from the same base product.
Perfect. And what is the recycling technology? A question just popped in now. What format is that recycling technology?
The technology is very straightforward. If we're looking at a very simple t-shirt, polo shirt, tunic, or set of scrubs, we would take that on its first journey, direct from garment, shred it, and put it directly into the reusing process. Once it's been used or it's been recycled a couple of times, we then have to use a repolymerization system, i.e. we have to take it back to its base polymer to remove impurities that have found their way into it. And to give you an indication on that, if we were asked to add elastane to give it extra stretch, we can recycle and remove up to 7% impurity.
And there's a follow-on question from the about is they're asking, is that a chemical process?
It is not, it's a mechanical process.
Okay, thank you. And we have another question here about how much material has so far been recycled. Do you know an output amount from the recycling process yet?
You know, it's common practice to recycle nylon. I couldn't give you an exact figure. If you're asking us how much we've done, we're into the tens of tons. I cannot give you an exact amount, but we are recycling our cutting and production waste as we speak.
Thank you. And this is a final question, unless anyone has more in the meantime. So what are the weight of the fabrics and what are the textures available?
My goodness, how long's a piece of string? We have weights available from the lightest one we've done is 80 gram. And the heaviest one we've done is 420 gram. And they were products from a replacement silk scarf for the lightweight and a heavy duty sweat top for the fabric at the top end.
Thank you. So it looks like that's all the questions answered now. So before I conclude and wrap this up, do you want to say any more few words?
Yeah, I've got a couple of things I want to say. First and foremost is thank you to everyone that's helped us today. Stanley, Nisha, Karen, and my adversary, or my arch adversary, Jamie, which is a standing joke to do with our military careers. But thanks everybody, and thanks for everyone that's listened. And please, if you've got questions, if you want a discussion, get in touch. I'm ever so easy to find. And also read some of the articles I publish, because I hate people that use the term sustainability to try and sell me something. And then when I look at it, I see that it's greenwashing.
So thank you for that concluding statement. Again, I'd like to echo all of those thanks to all of our guest speakers today. We really appreciate your time and your knowledge here. It's really important that we get that broad aspect in this education piece. So thank you everyone who tuned in today and good luck to the Meryl team. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Bye.